Before class assignment number 9, CAD Strategies, Frames. To get 10 points for this before class assignment, watch the video tutorial and model the frame shown below using Frame Generator within Autodesk Inventor. Let's get started. Okay, of course, first of all, we want to make sure that we have a project created. And I've done that. BC-9 is what I've called my project. And now let's do a new, and we'll do a new part. And I'm going to go ahead and do some sketching. I'm going to create a two-dimensional sketch on this plane, and I'll draw a rectangle, and I'm going to project this datum and this datum so that I can align the midpoint here and capture symmetry, midpoint here and capture symmetry, and let's put some dimensions. What I'm doing here is I'm modeling the top side of the table, and I'm going to be modeling a skeleton that the frame will be placed on, and I'm drawing lines that represent the midpoint of my frame elements. So we can see that the frame needs to be 38 inches wide and 26 inches in this direction, and that's to the outside of the frame. And since the frame is 2 inch by 2 inch, I'm going to make this 36 and 24. That would be to the middle of the frame. So we'll make this one 36 and 24. That's the size to the middle of the frame members, and that's the top section. Let's finish that sketch. Next thing I'm going to do is create a sketch. I'm going to create a new datum plane. Let's make a new datum plane that represents the very bottom of the frame. And that bottom of the frame will be 32 inches down. Again, that puts me into the middle of the frame member. And now I'm going to create another datum that will come up this direction by, let's call it 4 inches. Okay, now I'm going to create a sketch on this datum, and I will project the top sketch onto that and finish that sketch. I'm going to create another two-dimensional sketch down here on the bottom datum, and I'll project that geometry down. Okay, I'm going to create some more datums. Now that I have those two sketches, I'm going to create another datum plane that goes through those two edges. I'll create another datum plane that goes through these two edges, another datum plane that goes through these two edges, and another datum plane that goes through these two edges. Now I'll create a sketch on this front datum plane, and in that sketch I will project the top rail, this middle rail, and the bottom rail, and I'll draw a line representing the legs of my frame. And I'm also going to take and draw a line that represents the diagonal of the frame, and we'll put a few dimensions on there. Let's make this one 4 inches, and we'll make it also 4 inches up for that diagonal. I'm fully constrained, so I'll finish that sketch. I'll create a two-dimensional sketch on this plane, and I'm going to project this geometry into that, as well as let's see, I'm going to finish that sketch. I'll delete that sketch and do something a little differently. Let's create a sketch on this back plane first. There's a sketch on the back plane. I'm going to project all the geometry, the two legs and the diagonal brace. We'll finish that sketch. Now I can go ahead and sketch on this side plane and do what I was thinking of doing. I'm going to project some geometry onto that sketch. I'll project this point, and I'll also project this point. And if I look, I'm going to go from up to down, so I probably ought to project this point as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from this point that I projected down to this point. There's my diagonal brace for that side. And now I'll go ahead and create a sketch on this plane here. and I'm going to project this diagonal brace back to there. Finish that sketch. And I'll turn off my datum so we can see a little bit nicer what we've done. Okay, so I have this skeleton frame and I like what I see, so I'll go ahead and save that. I'm going to save that as the skeleton frame. So the next thing I'm going to do now is a new assembly. I'm going to bring in the skeleton into this assembly. So let's place a component. Excuse me, I'm going to place, not from Content Center, just a typical place. So let's place that skeleton frame, and it's in my assembly. And I'm going to turn off the datum planes. And the next thing I'm going to do is come here to the Design tab, and let's insert a frame. Looks like it's telling me that I have to save my assembly first, so let's go ahead and save the assembly. I'll call it assembly frame. We'll save that. Okay, so now it's allowing me to insert a frame, and let's choose from the American standard some ANSI L equal angle steel, and let's choose from the size this 2" by 2" by 3/16 wall. And let's specify that we want it here, 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 and here. And we'll apply that. And say OK. And it gives me some angle frame members there. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is let's, instead of the angle, let's do some rolled steel, let's see, square tubing. And let's choose some 2 by 2 by 3/16 square tubing, and we'll place that here, 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 here for the legs. Say OK. Now the next thing we're going to do is insert some frame members, and let's go to the angle again. This equal angle, and let's go 1.5" by 3/16 wall, and we'll put that in there, 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 and there, and we might as well put it here as well as here, and here, and here. We'll see if that works. Hit OK. It should put that 1.5" angle in all these places that we want it. And it looks like we're OK, except for these angles on the side. It looks like they tipped a little bit. They're not square with the world, so I'm going to put those in separate. Let's go find those. This one and this one. And I'm going to say delete those with Frame Generator. And now let's put those back in as a separate component here and here, and see if it puts them in a little bit straighter. Yes, that looks like a little nicer. Those are a little straighter. Okay, so if we look at the way we want the frame, it looks like we want all the frame pieces with the leg of the angle on top and the other leg of the angle on the back side. So let's see if we can make those adjustments. For instance, this angle right here, let's see if we can edit that with Frame Generator. And let's specify that that one needs to be about a 90-degree rotation, and apply that and see if we like it. Yeah, so that looks a little better. So let's do that here with this one as well. See if a 90-degree rotation will work for it. That looks good. We'll do the same with this one, a 90-degree rotation, and this one, a 90-degree rotation. And let's also specify those two and see if we can get a 90-degree rotation on those as well. this one a 90-degree rotation. Those don't quite look like the way we wanted them. We wanted the leg on the back side, so let's choose this again, and let's go a 270-degree rotation and see if that looks more like what we want. No, maybe we need a 180-degree rotation. Let's make that 180. There we go. Now it looks like the rotation's correct with the leg on the top and on the back side. So we'll do the same over here. Let's do this one with a 180-degree rotation. That looks better. And let's see what rotation we'll need for this one. This one here, let's try a 180 as well. No, we needed that one probably at 270. No, that still didn't work. Let's try this one at 90. Yes, that's the way we want that one angled. And we'll try this one at 90 as well. Yes, that's the way we want that one oriented. Okay, so we've got all of our braces and our frame members oriented correctly. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the skeletal sketch now so we can see these frames. So now you'll notice that the frames still aren't brought together in a mitered cut here, for instance on the top. The tubing comes up too high. So let's go back to the Design tab and let's apply some of these end conditions. First of all, let's apply a miter cut between those two frame members. And that brings it a nice mitered edge. We'll do the same thing here. And let's do a mitered cut here. And let's do also a mitered edge here. Okay, so we've mitered those nicely. Let's do some trimming and extending. First of all, let's take this frame member, and actually we could probably take all of these frame members, and let's trim all of those frame members back to this face. Now those tubes don't protrude up above. That's looking a little bit nicer. Let's do these two frame members back to this face. Now they're not sticking inside the tube. We'll do the same thing with those two members and this face. Now it's cut those back so that those will be just the right length. And we'll do the same thing now with these two members and this face. And these two members again. With this face. And we may need, it looks like these angles are protruding as well, so we forgot to trim those back to some faces. So let's choose those two members trimmed back to this face. We'll also choose these two members trimmed back to this face. We'll choose these two members trimmed back to this face. And these two members trimmed back to this face. Okay, so now we have our frame built, and we'll notice that none of these frame members are protruding where they shouldn't. And if we were to cut those to the right length, we'd be able to weld those up nicely. So go ahead and complete that frame, and that concludes before class assignment number 9.